The Shunga Dynasty, A Complete Study 1, Introduction. The history of ancient India is marked by the rise and fall of powerful empires that shaped its culture, politics, and society. Among these, the Shunga Dynasty holds a significant place as the successor to the Maurya Empire, one of the greatest empires in Indian history. The Shunga period, c. 185 BCE, 73 BCE, was a time of political fragmentation, religious transformation, and cultural evolution. Founded by Pushyamitra Shunga, a former general of the Mauryas, the Shunga dynasty emerged from the decline and disintegration of central authority under the last Mauryan rulers. Though often portrayed as a reactionary regime focused on the revival of Brahmanical Hinduism and the decline of Buddhism, the reality is more nuanced. The Shungas navigated the complex political landscape of northern India, facing both internal rebellions and external threats, particularly from the Indo-Greek kingdoms. Despite their struggles, the Shungas contributed significantly to art, architecture, and literature, marking a transitional phase between the Mauryan age and the classical period of Indian civilization. They oversaw the enhancement of stupas like Sanchi, encouraged Sanskrit drama and poetry, and helped shape the religious diversity that would characterize Indian society for centuries to come. This study aims to explore the rise, reign, and fall of the Shunga dynasty in exhaustive detail, providing insights into the political, economic, social, cultural, and religious dimensions of their rule. 2. Historical context: Fall of the Mauryas. To understand the emergence of the Shunga dynasty, it is essential first to examine the factors that led to the decline of the Maurya Empire. On the glory and weakness of the Mauryas. The Maurya Empire, c. 321 BCE, 185 BCE, established by Chandragupta Maurya, reached its zenith under Ashoka the Great. Ashoka's embrace of Buddhism, his efforts toward non-violence, and his wide-ranging edicts promoting moral governance made him one of India's most revered rulers. Under Ashoka, the empire expanded to cover almost the entire Indian subcontinent, extending from the Himalayas to the Deccan Plateau, and from present-day Afghanistan to Bengal. However, the seeds of decline were sown during Ashoka's reign itself. Excessive centralization weakened local governance. Military pacifism after the Kalinga War c. 261 BCE reduced the empire's ability to defend its borders effectively. Economic strain due to large administrative costs and charitable donations strained state resources. Religious policies promoting Buddhism alienated the Brahmanical class and sections of the military aristocracy. After Ashoka's death in 232 BCE, the empire faced succession crises. His successors lacked his ability and vision. Rapidly, the empire fragmented into semi-independent provinces with governors wielding increasing autonomy. 2. Brihadratha Maurya and the rise of Pushyamitra, the last known Mauryan ruler, Brihadratha Maurya, presided over a weakened empire. According to ancient sources such as the Harshacharita by Banabhata and various Puranic accounts, Brihadratha was seen as an ineffective ruler, unable to maintain control over his nobles and military. During this time, Pushyamitra Shunga, a high-ranking military general, Senapati, and Brahmin, gained significant influence. Observing the empire's decay and perhaps motivated by political ambition and religious zeal, Pushyamitra orchestrated a palace coup. The Matsya Purana, Vayu Purana, and Bana's Harshacharita mention that during a military parade, Pushyamitra killed Brihadratha and seized the throne. Thus, in about 185 BCE, the Maurya Empire formally ended, and the Shunga dynasty was established. In political landscape of India c. 185 BCE, at the time of Pushyamitra's ascendancy, India was politically fragmented. In the northwest, Indo-Greek rulers like Demetrius the Firn had begun incursions into Indian territories. In the south, emerging powers such as the Satavahanas were asserting independence. Numerous small kingdoms and republics like the Mallavas and Yodayas vied for power in the Gangetic Plains in central India. Thus, the Shunga rulers faced the daunting task of reuniting and defending a fractured and vulnerable realm. Foundation of the Shunga Empire. 3. 1. The assassination of Brihadratha Maurya. The transition from Maurya to Shunga rule was not a gradual evolution, but rather a sudden and violent coup. Brihadratha Maurya, regarded as a weak and ineffectual monarch, had failed to inspire loyalty among his generals and administrators. His embrace of Buddhism and neglect of Brahmanical interests may have alienated large sections of the political and religious elite. According to Banapata's Harshacharita, during a military parade when Brihadratha came forward to inspect his troops, Pushyamitra Shunga struck him down in public view. This bold and bloody act shocked the court but faced little resistance. The emperor's weakened stature meant there was no widespread loyalty to avenge him. Pushyamitra thus proclaimed himself king, marking the birth of the Shunga Empire. The Harshacharita vividly describes the event. While the Maurya king was reviewing his army, Pushyamitra, having laid an ambush, killed him and seized the throne for himself. The act reveals both Pushyamitra's military cunning and the level of discontent brewing within the Mauryan system. Establishment of Shunga authority. After the assassination, Pushyamitra faced the immediate challenge of legitimizing his rule. Overthrowing a dynasty that had been associated with grandeur, especially one as well known as the Mauryas, was not easy. Brahmanical revival. Pushyamitra, a Brahmin, began promoting Vedic rituals and Hindu traditions. He performed Ashvamedha sacrifices, horse sacrifices, a grand ritual associated with kingship, to assert his sovereignty and divine approval. Appealing to the Brahmins. By patronizing Brahmins and reviving traditional rituals, Pushyamitra sought to win over the religious and social elites, many of whom had felt marginalized under Buddhist Maurya rulers like Ashoka. Military strength. As a former general, Pushyamitra had strong control over the army. This military backing allowed him to suppress revolts and assert his authority. Thus, the foundation of the Shunga Empire rested on a threefold strategy: military control, religious legitimization, and political consolidation. Early challenges. Pushyamitra's rise was not without opposition. Several immediate threats faced the nascent Shunga Empire. Mauryan loyalists and provincial governors could have challenged Shunga authority, although records suggest most were either subdued or co-opted. Indo-Greek invasions posed a major threat from the northwest. Greek kings like Demetrius I advanced deep into Indian territory, possibly reaching up to Pataliputra according to some later accounts. Internal revolts by regional rulers and republics such as the Panchalas, Mathuras, and Mallavas needed to be quelled. Pushyamitra reportedly waged wars to defend and expand his authority, reinforcing the idea that the early Shunga period was a time of constant military engagement and territorial consolidation. Religious policy and its political role. Pushyamitra Shunga's religious policy played a key role in shaping the character of the dynasty. He actively revived Hindu practices, especially Vedic rituals. Buddhist sources, particularly the Divyavadana, accuse Pushyamitra of persecuting Buddhists, including destroying monasteries and killing monks. However, these accounts may be exaggerated due to religious bias. Archaeological evidence shows continued Buddhist activity at sites like Sanchi during the Shunga period. Rather than outright suppression, it appears that Pushyamitra sought to reassert Brahmanical dominance without entirely extinguishing Buddhism. This religious stance helped him consolidate power among the Brahmanical aristocracy, who were crucial allies in governing the fragmented empire. The reign of Pushyamitra Shunga, 4.1 background and rise to power. As detailed earlier, Pushyamitra Shunga came to power through the assassination of Brihadratha Maurya. Once seated on the throne, Pushyamitra's primary objectives were consolidate control over the fractured Mauryan territories, protect the empire against external threats, particularly the Indo-Greek kings, revive and promote Brahmanical traditions to legitimize his rule. Pushyamitra ruled for about 36 years, c. 185 BCE, 149 BCE, and during his long reign, he established the political, military, and cultural foundations that allowed the Shunga dynasty to survive for nearly a century after him. Military campaigns. Pushyamitra's reign was marked by constant warfare. His military campaigns can be broadly divided into three categories. 4.2. Defense against the Indo-Greek invasions. One of the most significant threats during Pushyamitra's reign came from the northwest. After Alexander's death and the breakup of his empire, the Indo-Greek kings, successors of the Greco-Bactrian kingdom, expanded into Indian territories. Demetrius the Firm and other Indo-Greek rulers invaded parts of Punjab, and possibly even advanced toward Pataliputra, the Shunga capital. According to the Yuga Purana, a Greek force reached Saketa, modern-day Ayodhya, and even threatened Pataliputra. However, the Greeks could not establish lasting control over the Gangetic plains. Pushyamitra and his forces repelled these invasions successfully, preserving the core of the Shunga Empire. This military success significantly enhanced Pushyamitra's reputation as a defender of India against foreign invaders. 2.2 Suppression of internal revolts. The fall of the Maurya Empire had encouraged regional powers to assert independence. The Panchalas around the Ganges-Yamuna Doab, the Mathuras, central Uttar Pradesh, the Mallavas, central India around modern Madhya Pradesh. Pushyamitra had to lead vigorous campaigns to suppress these breakaway forces. By force and negotiation, he managed to keep the heartland of northern India intact under Shunga rule. 2.3 Ashvamedha campaigns. One of Pushyamitra's most famous political religious moves was the performance of 2 Ashvamedha sacrifices. The Ashvamedha, horse sacrifice, was an ancient Vedic ritual meant to assert a king's supreme authority. In this ritual, a horse was set free to roam wherever it wished, accompanied by royal guards. Wherever the horse wandered, if no one opposed it, the territory was considered subjugated. If opposed, a battle would ensue. Pushyamitra's successful Ashvamedha sacrifices symbolized his claim to sovereign authority, his assertion of political domination over rival kings, his revival of Brahmanical traditions. The performance of 2 Ashvamedhas was extremely rare and indicated the high confidence and strength of his rule. The religious policies. Pushyamitra's religious policy was pivotal in shaping his reign. 4.3.1 Revival of Brahmanical Hinduism. Pushyamitra actively revived Vedic rituals and supported the Brahmanas. He reintroduced traditional sacrificial ceremonies which had declined during Ashoka's reign. The Prakrit inscriptions and literary sources point to renewed state sponsorship of Brahmanical practices. 4.3.2 Accusations of Buddhist persecution. Buddhist texts like the Divyavadana portray Pushyamitra as a persecutor of Buddhism. Allegedly, he destroyed Buddhist monasteries, ordered monks to be killed in certain regions, bounty offered for the heads of monks in some narratives. However, historians debate these claims. Archaeological evidence from sites like Sanchi and Barhut shows continued Buddhist construction and state patronage during the Shunga period. It is possible that Pushyamitra favored Brahmanism without completely suppressing Buddhism, and later Buddhist chroniclers exaggerated his actions for ideological reasons. Thus, while Brahmanism enjoyed royal favor, Buddhism survived and even flourished in certain regions. Relations with other kingdoms. Pushyamitra's reign also involved diplomatic relations. Relations with the southern kingdoms like the Satavahanas were complicated. There may have been conflict, but also periods of coexistence. In the northwest, the struggle against Indo-Greek rulers continued intermittently, but the Shungas maintained their stronghold in the Gangetic plains. Thus, Pushyamitra succeeded in defending and stabilizing the empire against multiple external and internal threats. Assessment of Pushyamitra's rule. Modern historians assess Pushyamitra Shunga's reign in nuanced terms. Strengths: successfully defended northern India from foreign invasion, revived traditional Indian religious and political institutions, maintained a relatively unified realm amidst intense fragmentation. Criticisms. His rise to power through assassination was seen as treacherous by some traditional accounts. His favoring of Brahmanism at the cost of the religious pluralism of the Mauryan age is seen as a step back by some modern scholars. Nevertheless, Pushyamitra Shunga remains a towering figure in ancient Indian history, a pragmatic ruler who stabilized northern India during a deeply turbulent time. Successors of Pushyamitra Shunga. The death of Pushyamitra Shunga marked a significant transition for the dynasty. While he had successfully stabilized northern India, the challenges facing his successors were even greater. External invasions persisted, regional fragmentation continued, and internal weakness began to show. The early Shunga rulers, however, managed to preserve the dynasty for several decades. Agnimitra Shunga, 5.1.11. Background and accession. After Pushyamitra's death around 149 BCE, his son Agnimitra Shunga ascended the throne. Agnimitra had earlier served as the viceroy of Vidisha, modern-day Madhya Pradesh, during his father's reign, gaining valuable administrative and military experience. Our primary source for Agnimitra's life comes from the celebrated Sanskrit play Malavikagnimitra, written by Kalidasa. Although the play is a romanticized account, it provides crucial historical hints about Agnimitra's reign. 1.2. Military campaigns. Agnimitra faced immediate military challenges. War with the Vidarbha kingdom. The kingdom of Vidarbha, Berar region of Maharashtra, had declared independence. The cousins Yajnasena and Madhavasena, descendants of the Maurya lineage, vied for control. Agnimitra supported Madhavasena and defeated Yajnasena, thereby extending Shunga influence into Vidarbha. Suppression of revolts. Smaller regional powers attempted to rebel during the transition of power. Agnimitra's military success reasserted Shunga authority over important central Indian regions. 1.33 Administrative achievements. While less is known about his administrative policies compared to Pushyamitra, Agnimitra likely continued. Promotion of Brahmanical Hinduism. Patronage of arts and culture as suggested by his association with Kalidasa's drama. 5.1.4 Character and personality. According to the Malavikagnimitra, Agnimitra was a lover of music and poetry, suggesting that the court culture of the Shungas had flourished under his patronage. Though it is difficult to separate historical facts from literary embellishments, Agnimitra appears to have been a capable ruler, maintaining the political stability secured by his father. Later Shunga kings. After Agnimitra, the Shunga dynasty entered a more obscure phase. Most of what we know comes from Puranic texts, scattered inscriptions, and foreign accounts. The Shungas after Agnimitra are often described as weaker rulers, facing growing pressures. The later rulers included 5.2.1 Vasujeshta. Little is known about Vasujeshta beyond his name mentioned in some Purana lists. His reign appears to have been short and uneventful compared to his predecessors. 2.2 Vasumitra or Sumitra. Vasumitra, Agnimitra's grandson, is a more prominent figure. According to Harshakarita and other sources, Vasumitra successfully defended a Shunga Ashvamedha horse against attacks from Indo-Greek invaders. His military success shows that the Shungas could still project martial strength during this period. However, internal disorder began to creep in during or after his reign. 5.2.3 Andraka, Q. Some Puranic lists mention a king named Andraka or Antaka, but confusion exists whether he belonged to the Shunga line or was a rival ruler. 2. Bhartpulindaka Rosha Vajramitra Bhagabhadra. The later Shunga kings, including Bhagabhadra, ruled during a period of gradual decline. Bhagabhadra is identified with a king, mentioned in the Heliodorus pillar inscription at Vidisha. Heliodorus, an envoy of the Indo-Greek king Antialcidas, erected a pillar in honor of Vasudeva, Krishna, during Bhagabhadra's reign. This suggests that foreign relations were maintained and Vishnu worship had become increasingly popular during this period. These kings increasingly lost territorial control over provinces as local powers grew in strength. 5.3 Challenges faced by later Shungas. 5.3.1 External threats. Indo-Greeks continued their incursions into northwestern India. Possible pressure from Scythian tribes migrating into Indian borders began during this period, later becoming dominant under the Sakas. 5.3.2 Internal disintegration. Provinces and local rulers gained de facto independence. Loyalty to the Shunga central authority weakened. Inscriptions suggest that while kings ruled from Pataliputra and later possibly Vidisha, real power increasingly lay with regional satraps, governors. 5.3.3 Religious and cultural shifts. Brahmanism continued, but Buddhism and early Vaishnavism also flourished. Evidence of syncretism. Indo-Greek ambassadors like Heliodorus adopting Hindu deities suggests a rich blending of cultures during the late Shunga period.